Students of Heidi Mayo art exhibit. It's a wonderful place to have at Pack-TV Gallery. And this will be an exhibit of 19 of my students, and that isn't all of them. Some of them aren't showing. And between the ages of 6 and 86. It's a student show, and so the students choose what works that they want to display in the exhibit. So we have turned it into a theme show in that we're going to do a fundraiser for Kids to Kids for Heifer International. So I have some of the kids make paintings of kids, and we framed them up, and there'll be a silent auction, and we're hoping to get up at least $250 to buy a goat for a family that can sustain itself by having that livestock. I started teaching when I was 17 years old for the Duxbury Art Association. That was one of my first jobs. And then I went for a long time without doing much art, and when I picked up pastels again, I almost started teaching immediately. And I taught for the Guild quite a bit. I'll probably teach for them again. But the thing I like best is teaching right at my own house. It's a control thing. I have control over the situation. I provide all the materials. I know what is there and what isn't. So, having my own studio and my own classroom makes it so that I can do a better job teaching, because kids' classes are only an hour and a half long, and so you really need to get right down to business. I just get so energized by it. It's very, it's a lot like painting, although I have to keep an eye on the clock. But it's very much like painting, where you get lost in the whole process of it, and it's wonderful. And watching how people progress. I have some kids that I've known for 5 years now, and so it's really exciting. And my 14-year-old hasn't gotten too cool to keep coming, which is wonderful. And hopefully she will always. Then when it gets to be 16, then they become an adult in my class. And so I do Saturdays for grown-ups. It's a wonderful thing. Last week we did plein air painting outside because the weather was beautiful, and I have chickens in my backyard, so we had a handful of scratch and kept throwing the scratch, and the kids were drawing chickens. And every week before we start our painting, the kids draw contour drawing, which is looking at the subject and drawing on the paper but not peeking on the paper and not lifting the pencil. And this really helps them when they have a moving subject, such as a chicken, because they have to work very fast to get the essence of the subject, because the subject's moving around. My style of teaching is fun, fine art instruction. That's what I call what I do. It's fun, and it really is fun. Some parents tend to be very serious and want the kids to do these perfect artworks every time, but if you take the fun out of it, that removes a lot of the creativity. So I try to keep it a lot of fun. I do have to crack the whip every now and then, but it's fun. And so while I'm teaching them the basics of drawing and the basics of perspective and the basics of color and value and shapes and composition, at the same time I'm making it so that it's really interesting and fun, such as going out there and doing chickens. And for kids between the ages of 6 and 14 to stand at an easel outside like a grown-up and do the work, it's really educational, and it makes them realize that they're as good as grown-ups. They're people. They're not just kids. And I do grown-ups too. Some of my adults are set in their ways because they've been doing art for years without me trying to have them do it my way. One of my students is 86, and he's a very fine artist in his own right, and recognized artist, and he's got his own way of doing things. He's been doing it twice as long as I have, so it's fun to try to get people to work outside of their brains and become a conduit of creativity rather than thinking about it and doing it. So a lot of what I do with grown-ups is trying to get them outside of judging and the cerebral part and just to get lost in the act of creating. People, and it doesn't matter what age they are, everybody comes together in this show to present their work to the public. For many of the kids, this is their first show, and for some of them, it's their second or third, even if they've shown, in other exhibits. And so this teaches them more about the business of being an artist, where the paintings have to get framed. I've framed a lot of paintings over the past few weeks because it's very easy for me to frame paintings, and it's hard for some people. But they learn about the framing, the presentation. They have to decide whether they're going to sell it or not, and their parents have to agree to. And or the grown-ups, some grown-ups. In fact, one of my grown-ups isn't selling any of hers because she is a very fine artist who is going to have to use these works to enter in jury shows. So those aren't for sale, and one of them is a gift. So what the kids learn is they get validated as artists, and if they put a little price tag on theirs and they sell it, it's like, whoa, they're professional artists. And for grown-ups too, who might not feel as though they're ready for the big time, to go, put it in a jury show or something like this. This is a way for them to see their stuff hanging in a frame at a big gala opening, and people appreciating it. And I'm making a little brochure, so everybody's name is in it, and everybody's little 2-sentence biography is in it. To have a non-juried show, such as this, or to have a gallery like Pack TV for non-juried shows, allows artists who might not feel as though their work is ready for a juried show, or they might not necessarily belong to another art association or something like that, and do those member shows. This allows emerging artists to hang their work, to have an opening, to have a show that allows them to take that intermediate step between, the heavy-duty jury business and not showing at all. It's a wonderful resource that we have here. I'm currently building my top-of-the-world studio gallery next door to my house, and it's very exciting. It doesn't have running water or heat yet, but we are able to teach classes in there when the weather is good, and it's wonderful. 4 giant skylights and windows all around, and it's feng shui for art. So the kids love it, the grown-ups love it, and maybe within the next few years we'll end up with insulation and heat and stuff like that, so we can even be over there in the winter, because in the wintertime now we work at the kitchen table. So my kitchen is an art studio and a kitchen and a framing area and everything in my own studio. I paint inside if I can't go outside. So the top-of-the-world studio is a very exciting aspect of my growing art business.